In this video, we're going to talk about transporting the front ensemble. I often see concert instruments used outside. This is very common, and if you have to do that, there are a few things to be aware of. The concert instruments are designed to roll across a concert hall stage down a smooth hallway. Those frames are a little bit weaker and the wheels are smaller. You want to stick more with the outdoor frames if at all possible. Those have bigger wheels to go across rough terrain. They also have stronger welds on the frames, and it can handle the loads that are required for moving across different types of terrains associated with marching band. If using concert instruments is a necessity with your program, there are several options that are available to you for preserving the life of the instruments. First option is to check with the manufacturer of your instrument to see if they offer a field frame for your instrument. If you don't have the money for that, or if it's an older instrument and it doesn't really fit on one of the newer field frames, you might look at going to a local welder or machine shop and trying to see if someone can reinforce the mounting brackets on your instruments, or maybe even make your own field frame. If you choose to have the frame built, then you want to keep in mind that when you have larger wheels put on, it could affect the height of the instrument. Keeping the instrument at the proper designed playing height is very important. One other suggestion is using a large cart to transport all the instruments from one place to another. You can take all of the instruments and put it on the one cart, pull it by a golf cart or a four-wheeler or a lawnmower or something like that, or you can get individual carts that you can put one instrument, maybe two instruments on, and one person can pull that cart. Even though that's an extra expense to purchase these carts and to store them, in the long run it's going to protect your instruments and it's going to keep you from replacing parts or even replacing the whole instrument. So now we're going to talk about transporting the instruments from the band room to your performing venue. It's important when you're dealing with the moving truck that everyone understands how to properly load and unload these very large instruments. Because they're so heavy, it's important that you pick them up at the most sturdy point on the instrument. Timpani should be picked up by the struts. That's the long frame parts that go from the top of the instrument to the bottom of the instrument. If you pick it up by the rim may not be able to bear the weight of the instrument, and it could bend the rim. With the marimbas and vibes, the frame ends are going to be your best places to grab onto because the rails themselves aren't necessarily locked into position. They just sit into a channel. So you want to grab it by its most sturdy point. Another consideration is to make sure that the people are large enough to do this. You don't want 2 or 3 small kids trying to pick up a 400 or 500 pound marimba. In this case, you may need to recruit adults or band parents to help load the larger instruments. It's very important, though, to note that no matter who's loading the gear, they understand the expense of the instrument and how important it is to handle them properly. Just taking these few moments will help preserve the life of the instrument, and it could help from causing injury. If you have the opportunity when you rent your truck to get a lift gate, that's going to be your best option. Then the truck itself bears the brunt of getting the instrument from the ground into the truck, and everyone's going to be safe. The instrument's going to be safe. Be very careful with the loading ramps on those trucks. None of the instruments fit properly onto that narrow ramp, number one. Number two, it's easy to slip on those ramps, and especially if it's raining or there's any dew outside, anything like that, someone could get hurt. And as mentioned before, with the concert instruments and the weaker frames, that rugged, rough surface going up, you may end up damaging the frame as you use the ramp. Now that we've gotten the instruments onto the truck, it's important that we get our covers out and cover the instruments. You want to protect the bars, you want to protect the timpani heads. In this situation, when you're traveling down the road, the instruments will shift, and even when they're secured, they're likely to rub up against each other and could damage the bars or the frames. Now, You're going to want to take heavy-duty bungee cords or ropes and attach them to the side of the truck or secure them to the side. Once you get one instrument secure, you can attach another instrument to that, but you want to put them in a position where they're not going to move around. You want them to be immobile. If you have older instruments, sometimes those resonators tend to jump out of the track that holds them in. If you've noticed this in moving from your rehearsal site to your band room and things like that, you may want to take those resonators completely off the instrument, wrap them in blankets, and secure them somewhere else. Depending on the complexity of the number of instruments utilized in the front ensemble, it's important that before the first show, someone catalogs all of these things: shakers, maracas, mark trees, tambourines, etc. It's important to take some extra time to figure out how you're going to transport those instruments. In some cases, you can buy small trap cases for the handheld instruments. You can get cymbal bags for the cymbals. You can even go so far as to get larger cases for congas and drum sets and things of that nature, and for your hardware. But for your marimbas, timpani, concert bass drums, chimes, you really have to take the time to make sure you have good covers and that you transport them properly. These things will protect your investment, and the instruments will sound great for a long period of time.